Hey everybody, it's Jesse again, and welcome to another edition of Gen X Thinks. Today our topic is going to be about how did we survive all of our toys back in the 70s and 80s, because none of them were concerned with safety standards or safety in any way. We had some pretty dangerous stuff back then. The manufacturers weren't concerned with it, our parents weren't concerned with it. They would just hand us stuff that was inappropriate and a lot of times dangerous. And we can thank Jenna Thurston 364 for the inspiration for this video. This was her idea. I've just been thinking about it and come up with some topics we can talk about under the umbrella of surviving the 70s and 80s as children. But it was originally her idea. So thank you, Jenna Thurston 364. So first off, I'm gonna list a few of the items that we had, a few of the toys that we had that we really shouldn't have had, and why they were dangerous, and some of the things that my brothers and sisters and myself did with these things. So let's go ahead and kick this off. Probably the most famous of the dangerous toys were the jarts, or lawn darts. I remember playing with these as a kid, and me and my brother, we never put the ring on the ground and stood next to each other and like tossed them up and tried to do that. They were, from the very beginning, straight out of the box, they were missiles that we aimed at each other. We threw them like regular darts at each other. I don't ever remember playing the actual game with those things. We would chase each other around with them and just huck them at each other. Me and my brother were really into, World War II and that kind of stuff. We actually thought Specken Sie Deutsch meant hit the dirt in German. For those of you who don't know, it actually means, do you speak Dutch? But imagine two little dirty kids screaming out, do you speak Dutch? And then jumping behind a log or something, like we thought it meant hit the dirt, like somebody had thrown a grenade or whatever, or there was a plane coming. But we used to play a lot of war games, and the jarts were an ideal instrument of warfare back then. Another dangerous toy we had were Tonka trucks. Now these were probably the toughest toy ever made, ever designed by man, in my opinion. They were awesome, but they were made of metal, and it was fairly thin. It was really strong, and it didn't bend really easily, but it could be bent. The ones I remember, after you played with them a while and beat them around, they had like jagged metal pieces sticking out of them and stuff, and I would put my hands down on the two sides of the dump truck bed and run with it as fast as I could, pushing it with my feet. And I'd run with it as fast as I could. I don't know how many times I fell on that thing. I could have lost an eye countless times. My mother was always constantly warning me about losing an eye. You poke your eye out or whatever, but she never stopped me from doing any of the stuff that would cause me to lose an eye. I just kept getting these warnings. Yeah, Tonka trucks were pretty dangerous because they were light enough to be picked up too. And if you were mad at your brother, you could pick up a Tonka truck and swing it at him or throw it at him. They were hard metal, and not to mention they were probably covered in lead paint back then. I don't know how much lead paint we ingested as a generation, but I'm sure it's a lot. If we took all the lead and put it all together, we could probably equal the amount of balls fired in the Civil War. Yeah, lead paint and Tonka trucks. Good days. The Easy Bake Oven. Those things could reach something crazy like 350 degrees. And little girls were playing with them. And they would put stuff in there to bake. Little kids are going to run out of the stuff that they're supposed to bake, so then they're going to put other stuff in there, mud, make a mud pie and put in there, or no telling what. The young kids nowadays would be stuffing Tide Pods in there to see what happened, probably. I'm sure a lot of girls have scars on their fingertips from touching those little light bulbs in there, and yeah, that was a dangerous toy. Cooking stuff at that young age, and I don't know how many Gen Xers the old easy bake oven claimed. I have no idea. The slip and slide. This was a pretty dangerous instrument. You'd throw it out in your yard and put a hose on it and get it wet. It was a long piece of plastic, and then you'd go running and dive onto it, boom, and slide about 10, 12 feet maybe. But there could be your kids, so you're not going to be real careful about it. So I remember rocks being under the slip and slide and sliding down and hitting rocks that were underneath it and other foreign objects under there. Not to mention, if you got going fast enough, if you weren't careful and you put it in front of something like a picnic table, you could slide off and slam into that picnic table. I'm sure there are a lot of broken bones from the slip and slide. It was probably the hospitals that invented that thing so that they could get more customers. Just our playground equipment back then. I remember those like dome-shaped jungle gyms, and they always had like screws hanging off of them and jagged metal pieces hanging off of them. Getting caught in my pants, getting my pant leg caught in one of those, and then you fall and you're hanging upside down trying to. Yeah. I've got scars from those things too. And the merry-go-round, we all remember the merry-go-round. We would try to get that thing going dangerously fast, purposefully, on purpose. Try to make it dangerous. I mean, you could easily, just go around but that wasn't fun. It wasn't fun until your heart started racing and your adrenaline was pumping, and it was extreme. Once it got extreme and everybody was afraid and holding on for dear life, that's when it was fun. And I've seen many kids fly off of those things. Yeah. Run home holding a limb, crying. that was every time you got on one of those things. Somebody went running home crying to get some dirt rubbed on it or some iodine splashed on it or something, and probably get smacked and told that they'll ask if they want something to cry about. The merry-go-round. Yeah, that was a tear maker, a creator of tears. And then we had just about anything with wheels that should have required safety equipment, like helmets, elbow pads, knee pads, that kind of stuff, because we didn't wear it. I sort of remember that stuff existing, but even if one of the kids' moms made them wear it, wear a bicycle helmet, he would take it off as soon as he got away from his mom, because it wasn't cool. Back then they just looked stupid. Now I've seen some cool ones now. I mean, they've got them, you can get one the shape of a dragon or whatever, you know what I mean? They're cooler now. They don't look bad. But back then they were just these big bulbous things that looked horrible. Brightly colored, so traffic could see or whatever, so cars could see. It wasn't a good look, and I understand why we didn't want to wear them back then. But none of us wore any of that stuff. We would jump railroad tracks. You know how them big rocks are at the railroad tracks. Go hit a railroad track on a bicycle and flip into those rocks, because those rocks don't scatter like gravel road does. Those things are there and they're sharp and they're not moving. They're not going anywhere. Your flesh is gonna move before those rocks do on that railroad track. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. That's crucial. I still remember the sound of my brother's head hitting the track itself. It donged like not quite like a bell, but something similar. Dong. Yeah, he hit it so hard that he rung the railroad track. I'm glad it wasn't me. That must have hurt. He got up. I mean, it didn't knock him completely out. I'm sure he was dizzy. It probably sent him for a loop, but it didn't knock him completely out. After that little trip down memory lane, how did we survive it? How are we still alive going through all that stuff? The first thing I have to mention is some of us didn't make it. I mean, some of that stuff took the lives of some kids. It's not a fun thing to talk about, but it's true. Some of us didn't make it. So the rest of us, there was an element of luck that it didn't flat out, take you out. It just, sent you home crying or, bleeding or whatever. A lot of times, a lot of me and my friends, it had to be pretty bad for us to go home. We would just bleed, and keep exploring or whatever. But there's an element of luck that we didn't lose. It seems like half of Generation X should have only one eye or something, you know what I mean? Or we all have scars. I almost guarantee you that all of us have scars from back then. It was just so dangerous. But a lot of that had to do with luck. I feel, in my personal opinion, because I've seen so much stuff happen that like my brother with the railroad track. I mean, he could have easily died, but he didn't. It was just lucky. Another thing is that us older kids, even towards the younger kids that weren't related to us, we felt some kind of responsibility. We were responsible back then, really responsible compared to kids nowadays. We were just more mature. We did crazy stuff and we got our scars and we did stuff like that. But at the same time, we were very mature and responsible. We'd look out for the younger kids, try not to let them do anything too stupid that would get them hurt. Don't let them put anything too crazy in the easy bake oven. Don't let them jump off the roof or whatever, just stuff that was just obviously deadly. The older kids would interfere. They'd intervene. And I remember my friends doing that with my brother, my little brother. Even if I didn't happen to be paying attention, I'd hear some noise and I'd turn around and, my friend's like, no, telling my little brother, no, don't do that. You're going to get hurt, kid, So I remember that feeling of responsibility, and I remember that in my friends too. So we were responsible to a certain degree toward the younger kids. I don't know how us older kids made it to that age. Maybe those are the ones that didn't make it, the older ones that didn't have somebody over them to watch out for them. But we did. We watched out for the younger kids and made sure that they didn't do anything too utterly ridiculous, because we knew better, So to sum things up, we made it through by the skin of our teeth a lot of times, with luck, blind luck, and as a community. We stuck together and helped each other out, looked out for each other, looked out for the younger kids in the generation. We looked out for the younger kids in the generation where our parents didn't, because somebody had to, and it was us. The ones born, between 65 and early 70s, we were looking out for our younger brothers and sisters as they were coming up. And if you'd like to support the channel by buying me a cup of coffee, I'll put the link down in the description. Thanks in advance, and I appreciate it very much. I'll wrap it up there, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. As always, I enjoy commenting with y'all and reminiscing with y'all over the past. I'm having a blast, so please do that. As always, stay frosty, and I'll see you on the next one.